Most of council is on Zoom this evening. I do have one council member in the council chamber, but I wanted to let you know that there are others on Zoom, and because these are public hearings, I will be asking if there's anybody that wants to speak, and hopefully we don't miss anybody. And if you want to speak and I have not asked you to unmute yourself, then please do speak up. And with that, because we were in camera before we had our supper break, I'm going to ask our CAO for a resolution to move us out of camera so that we can start our planning hearings.
Resolved that as per section 152(4) of the Municipal Act, Council of the Rural Municipality of St. Clements does now resume sitting regular meeting.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazarowicz, Councillor Horvis seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. And I should also mention we do have our planner with us this evening, and his name is Santan Singh. And as we move through our planning items, I will be asking him to present on behalf of the planning board. So the first item we have on our planning meeting tonight is a conditional use, but before we start it, we have to move into a conditional use, or the hearing for the public hearing for the conditional use.
Okay, Santan, now stop sharing so you can now share and take over. Okay, so I'll pass the resolution. Okay, so just a minute, I'll pass the resolution for us to open the public hearing. Resolve the regular meeting be adjourned and the public hearing be open for conditional use 3-2022.
Can I have a mover, please? Or Councillor Strang moves, Councillor Spicer seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so as was mentioned, the first item we have is conditional use number 3 of 2022, and that is on Joseph Street. And I will ask Santan to please present the application to council.
Good evening, Council, and thank you, Madam Mayor. If I could just share my screen, I have a presentation.
Go right ahead, thank you.
Can everybody see the screen?
Oh, there we go. Just bear with us for a sec.
Okay, so this is conditional use 3, 2022. The subject property is located at 73112 Joseph Street, and the applicant seeks to allow a garden suite in the existing building in the agriculture restricted zone. This is the location map. The subject property is located on the west side of the Joseph Street, and there is an existing single-family dwelling and 3 accessory buildings, a barn, a shed, and a garage. This is the site plan. As stated earlier, the applicant is proposing to use an existing house as a garden suite, so it does not comply with the foundation requirements listed under the Garden Suite Section 3.13 of the zoning bylaw. The applicant is requesting a zoning variance to address that issue, and the variance application will be presented later in this meeting. This application was circulated to different agencies and departments. Environmental compliance and enforcement had requested some more information on the existing on-site wastewater system, and the applicant submitted the updated site plan, the one that you were seeing on the screen, slightly different from the one that's in the package. We received more comments from the department on the updated plan shared by the applicant just a couple of hours ago. The department has given an option to install a separate system for the proposed garden suite, or support the initial proposal by submitting more information on the septic field, or get a report done from one of the installers that the existing system can handle both the dwellings. Should the council approve this application, Red River Planning recommends 3 conditions. Number 1, that the conditional use be conditional use approval be limited to allow garden suite use as proposed within this application. Any changes in use may require a new conditional approval. Number 2, the applicant owner obtains all permits from the rental planning district. And number 3, applicant owner complies with all other required conditions of section 3.13 garden suite to the of the RMO St. Clement zoning bylaw number 52002. Thanks. If the council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you for that, Santan. Council members, do you have any questions of the planner on this application at this point? Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
So just a clarification question. So the third recommendation, you're talking about complying with all of the conditions under 313, which then, the way I understand it, means that the foundation would have to be placed on pad and post foundation only. Can you please clarify?
Yes, sir. As per the required zoning, it has to be a temporary foundation. But because this is an existing house, so the existing foundation is permanent. So the application has applied for a variance to allow the permanent foundation instead of the temporary one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, just for clarification then, right now it's on foundation with thickened slab. There is no
Yes, sir.
basement. There is no basement.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions to the planner from members of council? I'm not seeing any, and at this time I'm going to ask if the applicant is in the audience or on Zoom with us.
Yes.
Okay, do you have anything that you want to add to your application at this point in time?
I don't believe so for this time.
Okay, I guess there are a couple of questions that I have anyways. I mean, you have an existing home on the property that you want to turn into a garden suite that is on a foundation. You also want to have a foundation under your proposed new garden suite. And that is not, well, I guess it is allowable, but in the zoning bylaw, a garden suite must be able to be moved off. And what you are proposing is both of those structures appear that they will be permanent structures.
Okay, so this is the route that we've been guided down because originally what we would have liked to have done is actually just have an addition that is larger than the original home. We were told that that is not going to be allowed. So this is the route we're going, where we're going to have the new home on the same property, and then the garden suite will be demolished at some point after. It was kind of like a granny suite, that term, but like a reverse one, because the existing home was going to be where my mother was going to remain to live. And then down the line, it would have to be removed. But this was a route we were being told that we have to go down for this to be able to work.
Okay, I guess I'm not sure who would have given you that information, because if you wanted to put an addition onto an existing dwelling, it should be considered. And I am not sure what the reasoning would have been that you were told that you couldn't do that. Perhaps Santan, have you any information on that, or that wouldn't have come from planning, would it?
Yes, Madam Mayor, usually we get inquiries about people who want to set up a garden suite. I do not recall answering this query. But yeah, we usually deal with the queries that come regarding the garden suite.
Okay, but if they came,
An old email.
go ahead, Councillor Belanger.
So for clarity, am I understanding originally wanted to put the granny suite in the original existing home?
Yes. Sorry. We just, the way that we wanted it is for my mother to remain living in the home that she's already living in. And then my wife and I wanted to move on the same property, and we're just going to expand the house to a livable area for the two of us. And then to do that, we're just going to add just a completely new build to that. And that's,
Okay.
and we can have a breezeway between the two of them because the foundations would have been different in any kind of movement or whatever.
Okay. Okay, so basically you weren't talking about putting an addition onto the existing dwelling, you were talking about putting another dwelling with a breezeway between.
I guess, yes.
Yeah, there's a big difference as far as planning and rules go if you have a separate building as compared to an addition to an existing building.
Yeah, the breezeway was recommended because of the way the foundations were gonna, because there was gonna be a basement to the new home. The way the foundation would have worked out, I guess the breezeway was the option that they gave us, and I guess that's where it's becoming an issue with you guys, is because it was with a breezeway.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Belanger.
If we could determine who they are,
Sorry, AWC is the building contractor.
so not planning, but contractor.
When I'm talking about when AWC was making the recommendation because of the different foundations, yes.
Okay, I believe that our CAO would like to comment on this, so go ahead, please, Deepak.
So just for clarification, I think you can have two different foundations to one building as an addition. If your breezeway was going to connect the buildings, I just want a clarification from planning, that would have still been seen as one building. The breezeway would have been a breezeway, but it would have been connecting the two buildings, so I'm not sure why the contractor's telling you this. And then we have the director of, the executive director, sorry, of Red River Planning here as well. She raised her hand.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. Just for clarity, if it's a completely standalone structure connected by a breezeway, it's considered a two-family dwelling, and that's probably where the sticking point was from a planning perspective. So just to provide that clarity, if it's an independent, completely self-contained unit, then it's considered a two-family dwelling rather than a garden suite. So I just wanted to provide that clarity. I think that's where maybe the confusion lies and where we would have provided comments earlier.
Okay, anybody else have any comments from members of council? Deepak, do you have anything you want to add? Like, I have a question, I guess, for the applicants. Rather than, I'm not exactly sure what the best route would be, but the garden suite, the way you've proposed it, or the garden suite being the original home and you folks building a new home there on its own foundation and everything, with one septic tank, one water source, I'm not so sure that that would suffice for all of you there, and I'm not exactly sure what council would propose to do with this application the way it's been presented to us.
I'm sorry, was that question towards me?
Yes, it would have been toward you.
Okay, and what exactly was the question?
I guess the way it's been proposed is you're wanting to change the use of the existing dwelling to a granny suite or a garden suite and build yourselves a new home. and share a septic field and water system. And I'm not sure if that is allowable as far as regulations from the province go from conservation.
Okay, they spoke to you about that today.
What they had mentioned to me was a letter went over to HRC, the contractor. The only thing they had mentioned to me was the septic system from an environmental
Right.
issue. And so I called Jason, because this just came up at 4 o'clock, just before I was heading into this meeting. So I had to talk with the building contractor on it. And I contacted Jason and said, it looks like you may have to put, she said, a holding tank in for the septic part. And then it looked like the letter that came from, I'm not sure who sent it, but it looked like I would be independent and the kids would be independent as far as it went with the septic field, or with the whole sewer system. We would then have 2 sewer systems in there.
I understood it as the existing home would have the existing system, and then the new home would have a holding tank that was separate.
She called it a holding tank, or whatever sewer system that would be allowable, but they would have to have their separate. There was no mention about the water at all.
Okay, and I guess I'm looking at the letter that was sent over by Environment, and this is quoted right from the letter. It appears that new residents will have 3 dedicated bedrooms. While determining the number of bedrooms, it is customary to include any room such as an office that could be used as a bedroom, and as such, this dwelling may be considered 4 bedrooms. In conjunction with the existing 2-bedroom dwelling, the total number of bedrooms would be 5 to 6 bedrooms. So the new home that you were wanting to build, how big were you going to build it?
Let me quickly grab the print.
Basically, my sewer system and water system that I have right now was for 3 people. And presently, right now, there's 3 people using the system once the kids come out. In my house, my spare room is actually an office. And the kid's office, I don't think is going to be turned into a bedroom.
No, it's connected to the living room. It's not a separate wall room, right?
That's the comment I was gonna say. That office is, there's no dividing wall between that office and the living room. There is only 2 steps. It's a lower, the floor is lower, that's all. So that can't really be a bedroom. There's no dividing wall.
It's just a walkway through into living and kitchen. It's completely open.
Okay, I'm going to, our CAO has some further comments. I'm going to pass it over to him.
Just for some clarity, when the approvals are looked at, it isn't what is being used for at the moment. It is what is the potential capacity. So you may have, you may intend to only use 1 bedroom, but the potential capacity is to be able to have 2 bedrooms. The other one is a potential capacity of up to 4 bedrooms. Even though there may be only 3 people using the system now, that's not what may be in the future. That's one point, I just want for clarity, and that's why the province's environmental services have responded in the way they did. The other point that I wanted for clarity is that as part of this request that you're making, the intent is supposed to be for a temporary in nature for a garden suite. So the requirement is it's only use as long as the garden suite is in use. So that could mean that it would be required to be removed in the future. Now that it's on a permanent foundation as a permanent structure, are you prepared for that?
Yes, that has been explained to us already.
And so,
And we are, yes.
so if in the future that it wasn't being used as a garden suite, that you'd be prepared to remove it off the site? And you'd be prepared to have that as a requirement for your approval?
Correct.
Okay, anything else from members of council at this point in time? Okay, I'm not exact,
Councillor Sutherland.
oh, go ahead, Councillor Sutherland, sorry.
Okay, yeah, just for clarification, so the one house that we have, the existing house has its own septic field right now, so if this were to pass, the granny suite would have to have a holding tank. It would not be connected, because we spoke about that before, right?
Correct.
And it would stipulate that when it's no longer in use, that it would be removed, this granny suite.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, if I could just get a correction on that. I heard what you said, Councillor Sutherland, and I need the applicant to clarify. The granny suite is on the future granny suite, or the garden suite. Is that going to be put into a tank and the new structure is going to utilize the field? Is that the intent, or are they both going to be put on two separate tanks? And I think we need to understand that.
If it is permissible to have the granny suite remain on the existing system and then have the new build be in the holding tank, then we would like to go with that. If they both require holding tanks, then we understand, like new holding tanks, and then have the old system not be used.
Okay,
So I guess it
so for clarification, Councillor Sutherland, what they're saying is that they're going to stay with the existing system with the granny suite, and the new construction is their intent to have for a septic tank.
That's what I thought. I just want to thank you, but I just want to make that clear.
Okay, Councillor Strang and then Councillor Horvis.
I just wanted also some clarification of the distance between the buildings and if they're to regulations.
That would be, so that is moved around a lot. So, I'm sorry, the gentleman that spoke at the beginning with Santan, he would probably know the most current proposed distance. But we intend to follow the regulations.
Santan, did you have the distance between the two livable structures in your presentation or in the comments from planning?
Yes, Madam Mayor. So the distance, as per the new drawing between the two buildings is 10 feet. And the distance between the septic tank and the existing the proposed garden suite is about 6 feet. The provincial requirement is 1 feet for the distance from the tank to the dwelling.
Okay, I guess that brings me to another question. What is fire separation between those two buildings? You're saying that they're only going to be 10 feet apart? Is there no requirement for fire separation, and how much would that be between the two buildings?
I'm not too sure about the fire distances between the buildings. Maybe Jennifer would know.
Yeah, I see Jennifer has raised her hand. Go ahead, Jen.
There would be a zoning bylaw requirement that require accessory buildings be separated by 10 feet from principal structures. So it would be treated as an accessory and a principal structure, and it would meet that requirement in that instance. But that is from projection to projection, just to keep that in mind.
Just for clarity, Jennifer, this isn't an accessory structure, it's living space. So would the same rules apply?
The same rules would apply in this instance, yes, because typically you don't contemplate two separate dwellings on the same title, but the zoning bylaw would treat the secondary residence as an accessory building.
What about the building code?
The building code, I don't know about that specifically, but I would presume that their design professionals would have taken that into consideration as part of the design.
Okay, I believe Councillor Horbus had his hand up, and I see Councillor Sutherland has his hand up. So, Councillor Horbus.
So, at the end of the day, when one of the buildings has to be moved, will the new build be the one that's leaving, or will it be the existing dwelling that's gonna leave? Because you're putting a basement in the new build, so I would think that at the end, the existing building would be the one that's moving. Is that where this is?
That is correct. The existing building is the one to be removed, and the new build will remain. And we are naming the existing building the Garden Suite. We're not building the Garden Suite.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
Yeah, two questions. I forgot to ask about the water supply. Are they going to have individual water supplies, like wells? There's a well now, obviously, for the one house. So is the intent to connect the water to the new house, the same well? And also, talking about the proximity that they're so 10 feet apart or 11. So fire codes, would there not have to be a certain material, a firewall, and with codes? I'm just curious, because I know when there's a garage and stuff like that, I think you have to have, there's fire codes for what material is constructed of. Has your contractor mentioned anything about that, or even Jennifer, is there no specification for?
I think Jennifer did have her hand up, Councillor Sutherland, so we'll let her perhaps answer that question.
Those specific fire rating requirements would be considered as part of the building review process. So that would be considered through the permitting process of our department. So this is one step ahead of that. We're not at the permit review stage on this one yet, but that would definitely be contemplated at that stage.
Thank you, Jennifer. And what about the water supply to the applicants?
So, AWC, our contractor, believes our well is adequate. So we were planning on using the existing well for both. But we will be upgrading the pump, the water pump.
One more question. How old is the existing house right now?
Built in 93.
93, okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Councillor Boulanger.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering, I'm kind of not quite positively sure what's all going on. I mean, it's no undue stress for the applicant. Can we not table this until we're crystal clear on what exactly we're doing here? I'm trying to follow, and I'm still not quite sure as to, it could be because we're all on Zoom and we're not in person, and it's just, I'm not quite sure where we're going with this. I just...
Well, and I guess I would have to agree with that. I mean, we're kind of talking about several different things here, and, you know, I don't know, I guess my suggestion was going to be if the applicants would reconsider putting an addition onto the existing house, but apparently they can't do that because they want a basement on theirs. So what is the wish of council? Do you want to hold it over and make sure that we have all the proper information and clarity so that we can make a proper decision? Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
I would say yes, since some of the information has just come in today, and we were in council meeting already, so some of it is actually new information to us. The other thing is, with the type of slab that's there right now, it's not on our bylaw for applying for a garden suite. So is this really going to be a garden suite?
Yes, it will. I mean, she will be living there, and then once she passes or is no longer living there, then it will be demolished. That's something that we've discussed and are okay with.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Boulanger.
The importance to me is the land. The building itself doesn't really have any sentimental value. Like, it's not up on my priority. It's the land itself that I value, and that's the reason why I have no argument with demolishing the building in the future.
The existing building.
Garden suite.
Yeah.
The proposed garden suite, it would end up being the proposed
Yeah.
garden suite.
I feel like most of the confusion is the use of language here. There is an existing building, and we would like a new building to be built with a breezeway connecting them. That was told to us that that could not be done, so we are applying here today to have the new building built next to it, more than 10 feet apart. And then in the future, have the existing building be demolished, and for the new building to remain forever.
Okay, Councillor Boulanger.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, I just want to make sure we make the right decision, not only for the applicant, but we make the right decision for the municipality. So it's not shutting the applicant down. I want to work with you. I think we want to work with you, but I just want to make sure the right decision is made properly, not hastily, and we look at this in more detail.
Is it the precedent you're concerned about?
I think it's more to have the right information, and as Councillor Strang, and I believe that's your mom with you, both of them said that some of this information was just received at 4 o'clock this afternoon. We've been in council since 2 o'clock, so none of us have had an opportunity to look at that additional information that came this afternoon. So I would suggest, and I would support Councillor Boulanger's suggestion to hold this over to the next planning meeting to make sure that we have all the correct information. And as Councillor Boulanger said, we want to work with the applicant. We don't want to shut you down or anything like that, but we want to make sure that it works for everyone.
So before we have the next meeting then, is the only hang up at this moment, the new information has to do with the septic system. If we get that nailed down by next meeting, is the rest as proposed in line?
Well, that is something we would have to review. I believe that, you know, when we looked at our information today, everything else seemed to be in order. There were some questions about the separation distance between the buildings. And the permanent foundation was the other kind of thing that we thought about, was the permanent foundation on both buildings, because in our bylaw, a secondary suite or a granny flat, whatever you want to call it, is not supposed to be on a permanent foundation. And what I've heard here is your mom's house right now is on a permanent foundation.
Yeah.
So
That was the motivation behind applying for variance.
okay, I believe that Councillor Spicer may have had his hand up. Go ahead, Scott. No? Okay, sorry. I thought you had your hand up. Go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
I just have a question here. I don't know if I should be asking. Like, the purpose of a granny suite is for a family to be a caregiver to the resident that's in the granny suite.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's your intent, that you're caregivers to your mother? I don't know if I should be in that question, but, you know.
Yeah.
is that-
Yes, and yeah, so back to the point when I was saying how the land is very important to me. My mother lives on the land right now alone, and it's getting to be, she's a widow, and it's too much to handle. So that is the motivation for us to move on to the land, is both to maintain the land and then also to take care of my mother as time goes on as well. So,
Okay, thank you.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we need a resolution to hold this one over, Mr. CAO?
You can just hold it over and not make a decision today.
Okay.
If the applicants, go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify whether council wanted more information and whether you're keeping the public hearing open, then you need to adjourn it, or close the public hearing and have a decision pending. So just wanted to clarify that.
I think probably to keep I think the intent of council would be to keep the public hearing open so that it doesn't need to be re-advertised or anything else, and then it can just be, new information can be brought to the next meeting. That's that okay, Jennifer?
Yeah, for sure. So then just adjourning the hearing to a specific date is the resolution coming up out of this.
Yes, and we'll draft a resolution that it is only adjourned, it won't be closed, and any information can be brought to our next planning meeting, which is, I guess, 4 weeks from today, which would make it March the 22nd.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just waiting for a resolution to be drafted, and as soon as we have it, we will, I guess we have to go out of the public hearing for this one.
We're going to adjourn it.
We're going
I
to
thought you
adjourn.
had the resolution.
Right. Okay, so Deepak, if you could read the resolution for this particular hearing.
You wanna go for it?
I'll find it in a second. Here we go.
14-4.
Resolve the public hearing for conditional use 3-2022 be adjourned and brought back to March 22nd, 2022 council meeting.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazarowicz, Councillor Sutherland seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. So we have adjourned the meeting, we have not, or the public hearing, we have not closed it, and we'll try and get some clarification to some of our questions, and it will be brought back to council for their decision on the 22nd of March. Okay, the next item, and I guess, I mean, if we could let the applicants know that variation order, will we deal with that tonight, or will that also be adjourned
That
till?
will also be adjourned because it's moved unless the other one is approved.
Right. Okay, so just for clarification, when we get to the variation order, that one will also be adjourned. We can go and listen to what the planner has to say, but that one will also be adjourned just so we can bring both back together, so. So moving on, the next item I have on the agenda for this evening is variation order number 4 of 2022, and if I could have a resolution to move into that public hearing.
Resolve the regular meeting be adjourned and the public hearing be opened for variation order 4-2022.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strang, Councillor Boulanger seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, so variation number 4 of, oh, I missed one here, I did this wrong. Variation order number 4 of 2022 in the name of Gwen. If you could take us through that one, please, Santan. Al, you'll have to leave the door open.
Well, I was gonna vacuum.
Well, you'll have to leave the door open because we're in public meeting and we can't have the door closed.
See, okay. I'll wait.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, Santan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I could just share my screen one more time.
Sure.
Okay, this is variation application VO4-2022. The subject property is located at 1100 Ferry Road. The applicant is applying for two requirements. First one, to increase the height of an accessory building from 18 feet to 21.25 feet. And number two, to reduce the front yard from 50 feet to 45 feet. This is the location map. The property is about 1.3 acres with 152 feet frontage on Ferry Road. There is an existing house and a shed, and the applicant has said in the application that the shed will be removed. This is the site plan, and the applicant is proposing to construct a new 832 square feet detached accessory building with a loft space. As per the zoning, accessory building used for storage and garage are permitted in the residential zone. This is the front elevation of the proposed building, followed by the rear elevation. The use of the buildings as indicated in the letter of intent is for additional storage, and the loft will be used as a work studio or a toy room. This application was circulated to different provincial departments, agencies, and we did not receive any objections. Should the council approve this zoning variance, Red River Planning District recommends 3 conditions. I'm going to read it from the package here.
Thank you.
Number 1 being the applicant owner obtain all required permits from the Red River Planning. This variance is limited as proposed within this application. Any changes beyond what is proposed in this application will require new variance application and approval. And number 3, this variation, the use of the proposed garage for personal use only and not to be used as a habitable space.
Okay,
Thank you. If the council has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you for that, Santan. Any questions to the planner from members of council? Go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
I guess I would require a geotech, right? For that building?
I'm not sure how close it is to the river there. Santan, can you enlighten us on how close it is to the river and if a geotech is required?
Sure, madam. The geotech is required within 350 feet of any water body, but that's at the discretion of the council or designated officer.
Okay,
Is this within 3?
yeah, can you tell us from the diagrams that you have, Santan, is it further from the river than the 350 feet?
I can definitely check that.
Thank you.
Give me one quick second.
It's closer to the river than the house. Looking at one of the drawings here, it appears that the proposed building is 400 feet from the river. But I think I'm not sure that I'm looking at the same drawing as you or not.
Existing
I'm
home
just
is.
checking on our GIS portal
Okay,
here.
thank you.
It's not properly loading.
Okay, I'm looking at one of the sketches that was provided by the applicant, and it.
Right, so this is the sketch, the overall width of, like, the length of the lot is 400 feet. This is the existing house, and this is the river. Doesn't seem like it's more than 350 feet away.
I think it shows here 400 feet. Santan, the picture above, on the drawing, there's a, no, go back to the one you were showing. On the drawing, it shows the line above, which is 400 feet, it looks like it's showing from,
Yeah.
from the river bank, I'm assuming. We don't know whether that's from, this is just
That would be the overall length of the lot.
oh, okay, that's the, if that's the
Yeah.
length of the lot, then
Right.
there's no way they would be less than 350 or more than
That's
350.
correct. Yeah. If you see, this distance is about 168 feet.
Yeah, well, it's 45 feet from that line there, from the
Yeah.
corner is where that corner is, so if this is all 400, that's within the 350 at least. So it will
Yeah.
require geotechnical.
Okay, so we'll have to put another condition in there that a geotechnical report be done. Okay, any other questions for the planner? Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Oh, jeez.
Just requesting to know if the planner has, knows if there's any plumbing fixture proposed for this building?
Before we go any further, just verification. We are on variation 2,
We are on variation 4, sir.
variation 4?
Yeah,
Yeah, we skipped variation 2,
Okay,
yeah,
but we can do that next.
okay.
yeah. Okay. Okay, so we're on variation 4, and Councillor Spicer, what was your question?
Well, I'm just noticing in the letter of intent, there's no discussion or comment on any plumbing fixtures located inside this building or loft. I'm just wondering if the planner's been given any other indication on that?
Thank you for the question, sir. No, we did not receive any information on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I see that if there are no further questions for the planner, I see the applicant is on Zoom with us, and perhaps he can clarify some of those questions. Do you have anything that you want to add to your application, Mr. Gwynn?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Now
can.
we can, yes.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm not really computer savvy. As far as I know, I didn't know the overall length of the property. Are we sure it was 400 feet in length?
I don't
Because I'm
believe,
kind of confused. I'm kind of confused myself of where that 400-foot mark stops and starts. I can go check with Red River and just make sure that it's 400 in total length. So.
well, I think what council may consider is putting another condition. If council so chooses to deal with this evening, we could put another condition in that a geotechnical report be done if required.
Okay.
And then we should be able to deal with it this evening. But I'm just wondering if you had anything more to add to the application.
There was a gentleman, I believe, Scott was asking about the plumbing fixtures. In my original drawing that I presented to the planning board, we were hoping to put a bathroom up there because it will be used as an office space for my wife. I don't know, as far as the, Don that did the drawings for me, he says it was allowed, but I never really looked into it. If it's not allowed, it won't be put in, but I was hoping to put one in. So I'll have to ask him and go from there. I was never told the bylaws on it, or basically that's about it for that. But.
Okay. I guess, yeah, because one of the conditions in the resolution that will be presented to council is that it is not a habitable space. So, I know that you said, you know, you're gonna have this loft and you're gonna use it as a games room and your wife will have an office in there, but I guess our main concern as a council is that there will be no one living in that building, period.
Yeah, it's not meant for, it's not habitable, as you would say. I was told no kitchen and nothing like that. It's not meant for that anyways, but
right.
As far as a bathroom, I was hoping to put one in for accessibility for the wife. That's about it.
Okay.
It will be open concept, like as the drawing, so.
Okay, do any of the council members have questions for the applicant? Okay, and I don't believe that I have anybody else on Zoom that wanted to speak to this application. If council wishes, we can close the public hearing and deal with this application if you are ready to do that.
Sorry, I'm blocking you every time.
Can you read the resolution then, please?
Resolve the public hearing for variation 4-2022 be closed.
Excuse me, question.
Oh, sorry, Scott, go ahead.
So I guess I have to ask the question, to the planner, is a washroom allowed in such a building? And then I guess, if it is, then doesn't conservation have to comment on how the waste is going to be dealt with?
And sir, like Madam Mayor said, if there is a washroom there, that would make it habitable, and that is one of the conditions for approving this, that it should not be used as a habitable space. The second part to your question, yes, conservation and climate would have, like they didn't really comment on this one, but if we knew that this was going to be used as a habitable space, we would have circulated to them and waited for their comment.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, and I'm just going to reiterate that council, if council chooses to proceed with this application this evening, one of the conditions is that it not be a habitable space. Go ahead, Councillor Boulanger.
On Councillor Spicer's note, though, the applicant did say that he was thinking of putting a bathroom in. Now, if you're putting a bathroom in and you flush the toilet, the effluent has to go somewhere. So where's it going?
Maybe we'll let the applicant answer that question. If you were planning to put a washroom in there, as you said, because you will be working in there and things like that, what are you planning to do for disposal of the sewage?
Well, with the wife and I talking, if there was a bathroom, it would be put into a holding tank, of course, but they won't be joined up to the septic field or anything like that. That was basically my thoughts. I haven't looked into the bylaws or anything about having a septic tank put in, or if it's allowed, or it's basically, this is my first step right here. So, yeah, the idea was the holding tank.
Okay, Councillor Boulanger, go ahead.
As Mr. Planner said, the reason conservation wasn't engaged is because this wasn't mentioned in the application. if a bathroom's gonna go in, then conservation has to be engaged to ask them, A, can a holding tank be put in, and are they gonna approve it?
Yes, and I'm just going to ask the executive director from planning if she has any further comment on it. I know that, you know, we have run into some difficulties in other areas where you request one thing and council approves it and it ends up to be something else, and then there's a lot of discrepancy. So Jennifer, do you have anything that you would like to add?
Certainly, council can place conditions with respect to the nature of how the building is being used. As you've indicated, it's not to be used as a habitable space. As part of the permitting process, we would review whether the washroom requirement would require input from conservation. Certainly, they would require a permit for a holding tank in association with that if they were allowed to have a washroom in there.
Okay, so are you saying that council could approve it with those conditions as were stated, and then if a holding tank comes into play, he would have to get the proper approvals from conservation and it would come back to council?
That's right.
Okay, any other questions for the planner or for the applicant this evening from members of council? Okay, I am not seeing anything, any hands going up or anything like that. If council is ready to deal with this application, I will ask for a resolution to close the public hearing because I don't believe there's anybody else to speak on this application. So if we could have that, please.
Resolve the public hearing for variation order 4-2022 be closed and the regular session of council be reconvened.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Boulanger, second. Can't see.
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Spicer, any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. If council is ready to deal with this application, I will ask our CAO to please read the resolution.
Whereas the applicant owner of tax roll number 422705, legally described as Lot 1, Plan 2865-4, and located at 1100 Ferry Road, has made application for variation order number 4-2022 from accessory height buildings over 800 square feet, 18 feet maximum, to accessory height buildings over 800 square feet, 21.25 feet maximum, from front yard 50 feet to front yard 45 feet. Purpose to increase the maximum height, required height, and reduce the front yard requirements for a proposed accessory building on the subject property. Therefore, be it resolved, variation order number 4-2022 be approved with the following conditions. The variance is limited to building height of 21.25 feet maximum and front yard of 45 feet maximum for proposed accessory buildings as presented in this application. Any further changes, replacements, or additions would require a new variance approval. Applicant owner obtains all required permits from Red River Planning District. The use of the proposed garage is for personal use only and not to be used as habitable space. Applicant obtain a geotechnical report if required. The order shall expire if not acted upon within 12 months of the date of making.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Spicer seconds. Any further discussions or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Can I request a friendly amendment?
You could.
It's, under, condition 3, the use of proposed garage and loft is for the personal use only and not to be used as habitable space.
Okay, can I ask the mover if that is fine with them to put that little change of wording in? Councillor Sutherland says yes, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, so Deepak, if you could just read that one condition again, please, sorry.
Certainly, just gonna refresh so that
Yeah.
it's updated.
It's number 3.
The use of the proposed garage and loft is for personal use only and not to be used as habitable space.
Okay, so we've made the friendly amendment, the mover and the seconder are fine with that. If there's nothing further, I have a mover, I have a seconder, I'll call the question, all those in favor? Oh, go ahead. Go
Just a
ahead.
quick question. Okay, for this bathroom, you know, the proposed bathroom, if you amend it, say it's not to be used for a habitable space, does that mean that there is no way there could be a bathroom put in there? Or can I still go about trying to get an approval for that?
I believe
If
that,
I can.
I believe that you can still request that from planning and they would have to take it to the environment department.
Okay, all right, yeah, I'd like to have
Just a
we
further,
try, you know?
just a further clarification. You'll be taking it back to Red River Planning, who will do the review of the bathroom and the design and see if it still meets with the intent of the zoning bylaw. If they determine that the bathroom makes it a habitable space as to how you've done the design, then they may want to bring it back for approval, or they can make the decision at that point to approve it.
Okay, all right, okay, because you know, the bathroom doesn't have to have it, right? It's just I don't want to have to be denied, lose my money for variances or whatnot because of something that doesn't have to be there.
Correct.
It'll just be nice, that's all I'm saying, right? It's,
Yeah, so you still have the option, but you'll have to go back to planning for that afterwards.
okay, so that's not a problem, right?
Okay, we do have a resolution on the floor. I had a mover and I had a seconder, and we did have a friendly amendment. So if there's nothing further, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, now we're going to go on.
Back to number 2,
Two.
Madam Mayor. And Santana, I'm sorry, I must have read number 4 and started at number 4. Was that what ended up happening?
Yeah,
Okay, I apologize for that.
no, that's okay, you get that date.
It's my old eyes. Okay, so,
Okay, so variation number 2, if you could read the resolution to go in camera, or open the public hearing.
resolve the regular meeting be adjourned and the public hearing be open for variation order number 2 of 2022.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strang, Councillor Spicer seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, Santan, if you want to walk us through variation 2 of 2022, please.
You're muted, Santan.
Sorry, if I could just share my screen again.
Yeah.
There you go. So this is zoning variance application VO2 2022. The subject property is located at 31149 Road, 77 North. And the applicant wishes to reduce the front yard setback from 50 feet to 41 feet in the agriculture general zone. This is the subject property. As you can see, the property has frontage on 77 North, and the existing house is in the southeast corner here. This is the site plan, and the applicant is planning renovations to the primary residence. As part of renovations, there is a proposed covered porch that requires the front yard setback, as mentioned right here. This is the main floor plan, followed by the front elevation of the building. This application was circulated to different provincial departments, agencies, and we did not receive any objections or concerns. Given the size of the property, about 156 acres, and the intent to renovate and add a porch, there appears to be no negative impact on the surrounding area. Should the council approve this variation order, there are 2 conditions. Number 1, this variance is limited to a minimum front yard setback of 41 feet for the proposed covered porch as presented in this application. Any further changes to placement or additions would require new variance approval. And number 2, applicant owner obtains all required permits from the Red River Planning District. Thank you. If the council has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you for that, Santan. Any questions from members of council to the planner? Okay, I'm not seeing any, and I don't believe the applicant is on Zoom with us, and the applicant is not in the council chamber here, so I would ask that we close the public hearing and deal with the application if council sees fit.
Resolve the public hearing for variation order number 2-2022 be closed and the regular session of council be reconvened.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazarowicz, second. Councillor Strang, any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so we can move on and deal with the resolution, and I believe it is in front of us here now, so go ahead, Deepak, and read that resolution.
Whereas the applicant owner of tax roll number 324000, legally described as Southeast 32-13-6E of, and located at 31149 Road, 77 North, has made application for variation order number 2-2022 from accessory front yard 50 feet minimum to accessory front yard 41 feet minimum. Proposed to allow for construction of a covered porch to the main building. Therefore be it resolved, variation order 2-2022 be approved with the following conditions. The variance is limited to a minimum front yard setback of 41 feet for the proposed covered porch as presented in this application. Any further changes, replacements, or additions would require new variance approval. Applicant owner obtains all required permits from the Red River Planning District. This order shall expire if not acted upon within 12 months of the date of making.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Horbis, second. Councillor Sutherland, any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, the next item we have on our agenda this evening is variation order 9 of 2022, and this is actually the other part of the application for the conditional use that we heard a little earlier at 73112 Joseph Street. And I believe it was said that because the conditional use was not dealt with, we cannot deal with the variation order. Do we want to just adjourn the hearing, or should we go through the process and then adjourn the hearing once the planner presents the information from planning?
Santan, just for process-wise, are you comfortable with us just adjourning without opening it up for a hearing?
Yeah, that should be fine.
We can just open it up as open to the public hearing and not close it and just adjourn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, resolve the regular meeting be adjourned and the public hearing be open for variation order 9 of 2022.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazarowicz, Councillor Boulanger seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. And again, as this goes hand in hand with the conditional use, we will not have the public hearing. We will adjourn it, and we will have it at the end of March, on the 22nd of March.
So just a resolution to adjourn.
Yeah.
So I'll just read it off. Resolved, variation order, council adjourned. Where am I here? Just if you give me 1 second, I'll use the conditional use as a way of adjourning. Resolve the public hearing for variation order 9-2022 be adjourned and brought back to the March 22nd, 2022 council meeting.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strang, Councillor Spicer seconds. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, so that takes us now to our subdivisions, and we have one subdivision on our docket this evening. And we will have a resolution to adjourn the regular meeting and have a public hearing on the subdivision.
Resolve the regular meeting be adjourned and public hearing be opened for S21-2938.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, second. Councillor Bazarowicz. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, Santan, if you want to go through this subdivision application for us, and the applicant is in the council chamber here, so if there are any questions, he should be able to answer once the presentation is given by the planner. So go ahead, Santan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could just share my screen again.
Sure.
All right. So this is the subdivision application S21-2938. It is located at 72186 Parkside Drive, and the applicant wishes to subdivide the title about 27.62 acres into 3 lots of 4 acres each, leaving a residual lot of 15.62 acres in the agriculture restricted zone. This is the zoning requirement for the AR. As you can see, the lots meet the minimum site area requirement of 4 acres. However, the lots 1 to 3 do not meet the required 198 feet width in the AR zone. Also, the proposed lot single family is permitted in the agriculture restricted zone. This is the location map, and the property gains access from Parkside Drive. The provincial trunk highways 59 and 44 run close to the property. This is the subdivision application map, and as you can see, the 3 lots are fronting the Parkside Drive, which is the service road onto PTH 59. This is the aerial information with lot lines and dimensions. The applicant also submitted a conceptual plan of what would happen for the residual lot, but that's for a future subdivision application. This application was distributed to different agencies and departments. We did not receive any objections. However, environmental compliance and enforcement stated that the proposed lots 1 to 3 do not meet the site width of 198 feet, and they would be limited to holding tanks. And the Manitoba infrastructure provided us with the comments about shared access for proposed lots 2 and 3. Since the council wished to approve, Red River Planning District recommends 4 conditions. The first one being the standard municipality, stating that it's going to read off the docket. Taxes on the land to be subdivided for the current year and any areas have been paid. Development levies and administration fees to be paid as per bylaw 416-2009. A grading plan be prepared to indicate positive drainage along the proposed property to the satisfaction of the RM of St. Clement, and to ensure that the proposed property does not drain onto or impede drainage from neighboring properties. And digital copy of plan of subdivision be provided to the RM of St. Clement. Number 2, the developer obtains permit from Manitoba Infrastructure for a shared use access onto PTH 59 service road, that is the Parkside Drive, for proposed lots 2 and 3. Number 3, the applicant owner submits written confirmation from Manitoba Hydro that an easement agreement has been entered into with the department with respect to the existing or any future facilities associated with the subdivision, and a plan of easement as required. Number 4, the applicant owner obtains all the required clearances for the undersized lot width from the Red River Planning District. Thanks. If the council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you for that, Santan. Any questions to the planner from members of council? I'm not seeing any. I see the applicant is in the council chamber here. Was there anything that you wanted to add to your application, Ray?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. The vacuum cleaner was going here, I couldn't quite hear what he was,
I thought about that.
what he
Well,
was.
yeah, I guess the only thing is, I mean, the one thing that I guess I looked at was that the proposed lots 2 and 3, I think it is, have to share a driveway, and that's a requirement from highways. They won't,
Lots 2 and 3 have to share a driveway?
I think it was 2 and 3. Is that correct, Santan? Lots 2 and 3 have to share a driveway because highways does not want that many accesses onto the service road?
Yes, Madam Mayor, that's correct.
The lot 1 has an existing driveway right now, he's aware of that?
He must be aware of that. I guess what highways is talking about is the proposed
Those
2 and 3.
All right.
Yeah.
So what I think is that you have an existing driveway, so highways is allowing you to have that already. And to get another one off of the highway, they're saying it has to be shared. Then we'll let you get new one for each one.
So that new driveway for 2 and 3 would be right on the property line of those two properties, basically. Would it be wider, would it be required to be wider than normal, or just a normal access road?
Santan, did you want to answer that?
I'm not really sure about the width or how the driveway is going to be proposed, but the Manitoba Infrastructure did provide contact information of Sheena Del Rosario, and if you have any information, you can always reach out to them for more questions.
All right.
So most likely it'll have to be on the property line, and then you'll talk it over with
Yeah.
highways as to how large it can be.
Yeah.
We can manage that.
And then you realize that the 3 lots, proposed lots 1, 2, and 3 are not in compliance, and you'll have to get variations for the site width, so.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions from council to the developer? Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
I just wanted to ensure that the applicant knew that they can only install holding tanks. Can we clarify that?
Sorry,
Yeah, Santan, can you just read that one, I guess it is one of the requirements that the 3 lots have to have holding tanks rather than fields, because they're not the correct width. I believe that's what it was. Can you just read that again, please, Santan?
Yes, Madam Mayor. It's not really a requirement.
Okay.
That was a comment by the environmental compliance. But yes, that would be a requirement. It's not in one of our recommendations, but they did said that they would be limited to holding tanks because they do not meet the required 198 feet.
So that is or is not a requirement that you can have it's a requirement that you have to have a holding tank, or it's not a requirement that you have to have a holding tank?
That is the only thing they would approve.
Yeah.
So what's happening is that you're coming in for a subdivision right now.
Yeah.
As part of the subdivision, if you get approved as a subdivision, you have to go back when you go to construct. That's when when environmental look at it, and they'll say they're not going to allow septic fields. It'll have to be a holding tank.
Is that right?
So unless those lots are at minimum 198 feet. Correct, Santan? Am I correctly represented?
Yes, sir.
Because I do have a building permit application in process right now, but we haven't got that far down the path yet.
Yeah, and that's what will probably end up happening, is they'll say that you need to have.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the comments from that Red River submitted in their package, and Manitoba Conservation, Climate, Compliance and Enforcement. The applicant indicates that disposal fields would be the method of wastewater disposal in the subdivision. In accordance with Manitoba Regulation 83/2003 On-Site Wastewater Management Systems Regulation, a minimum lot size of 2 acres with 198-foot frontage, site width, is required to install a septic field. The lot does have sufficient site width, and the method of disposal, lots 1 to 3 of the current subdivision application map, would be limited to holding tank only.
So they're giving you notice that they will not approve septic fields.
Go ahead, Councillor Bazarowicz.
What's the width of those lots?
171, 1.7,
Yeah.
171, they're about
171.85 is
There you
what
go.
it has
That's
on
enough.
the, yeah, on the application. So the acreage is good, but the lot width isn't. Go ahead, Councillor Belanger.
Would the applicant consider going from the 3 down to 2? Could that not increase his width? He'd still have 2 acres, but just get some more width there. Because a holding tank, I mean, it seems like he wasn't aware of this, and it could, you're either putting a $25,000, $30,000 field in, or you're putting a holding tank in that needs to be pumped every month or twice a month.
Ray, I'm just looking at the subdivision, the,
site plan.
yeah, from Barnes and Duncan, and did you create one lot there already? Or was that existing?
Well, that was an existing yard that we subdivided, an existing yard with a building office of 4 acres, like right in the corner.
Right,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, right there,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so you have that one lot, and then,
Well, I had the surveyor look at it, and like those existing lots that he did a couple of different variations of it, and then there is a future one that shows on the other side there'd be 3 going on to Kirkness, with 1 remaining lot going on, facing onto 44.
right,
He did a bunch of variations, and he drew up this one because the ends of those lots ran in parallel to the existing lots to the south.
right.
That kind of all lines up.
Okay, yeah.
Like, we had one that looked like a jigsaw puzzle, and we took it to Red River, and Pawan looked at it and says, well, why would you do this? It's like a jigsaw puzzle. Go with the clean one. So that's the one we went with. He said you can use a variation for the 171-foot width versus the 198. I wasn't aware of the septic issue. We are planning to build a house on lot 1, and I was looking into all the regulations for a septic field. Like, I did do a soil sample. Like the clay content at 3 feet is like 50%, so it's good for a field from that standpoint. But conservation is totally drawing a line in the sand that it's got to be a holding tank.
It almost appears that way, yes. Because they don't have the site width.
There's so much depth there. It's, those lots become kind of misshapen just because, they're so long and narrow.
Right.
So you're trying to line it up with these ones here?
Pardon me?
You're trying to line it up with these lots?
Exactly. Those lots would be a straight line. That's why he drew it in that fashion and got 4 acres per lot. So if the surveyor said that was the most efficient plan he could come up with. And he did 3 versions.
Yeah, and anybody else have any comments or questions from council? I guess I'm looking at it and I was, just kind of looking at it and not trying to put words in your mouth, but I'm wondering if you cut those 3 lots into 2 and made them not as deep, is there a possibility to bring a road in from one of the other sides and make another subdivision with more land, with lot 4 being bigger? Just a thought.
I guess that would be a possibility.
I mean, it's entirely up to you, but, you know, like, you obviously didn't know that you would need to put holding tanks on those 3 lots, so
No.
if you wanted to,
If you went with 2, so you got 171 times 3, so you got pretty near 500 and, is that?
Yeah, just over 500.
So then you're gonna have 250, 260, 270 feet of frontage on those 2 lots.
well, the only other thing that I would suggest is if you, I know, are you in a super hurry to get this done? Because I was gonna say council doesn't have to make a decision tonight. You could take it back and see if you could come up with a different configuration.
Because if this gets approved, then we're on this path, right?
That's right, yes. If we approve it as such, you would have to put holding tanks in those 3 lots. I don't know what else to suggest. I don't really, you know, go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Well, and I apologize for putting a fly in the ointment here, but I just wanted to make sure that the applicant knew, you know, so he can think of the ramifications or lack thereof of holding tanks versus septic, that's all.
No, and I believe that the applicant appreciates that because he wasn't aware that those 3 lots would need holding tanks. So depending on which way he would like to go, council could hold it over and he can go back and see what other configuration he could come up with.
Mm-hmm. I think I should do that.
There is, if you made them wider here, like as 2 lots,
Yeah.
maybe you could run the line down this way. Align with this, which kind of aligns with a property down here already. Maybe not align with these. Then you can build some others.
Yeah, at some point, there's gonna be a requirement for an access road, but then we'll have to look at that. But, there is an absolute requirement on 4 acres. There is no opportunity for less than 4 acres.
Not in that particular area. I mean, you know, I guess I could say it this way, if you made them 3.5, council could consider that, but we don't know what the government agencies are gonna say.
Yeah. They might come back and say the same thing, holding, it's not 4 acres, you need a holding tank.
So, you know, like council would consider whatever you put forward, but it's not always us, it's the government agencies that sometimes throw a wrench into these things for us.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to the surveyor and say, okay, let's go with 2 there, widen them out, get driveways in each one that way, do septic fields. Then we're gonna have to figure out the remaining.
Right, and you know, if you made them as Deepak said, kind of where, I don't know which lot that is.
Kind of stubby, like not as long as these.
Right.
It may come here, I don't know where 4 acres would take you, but it would be a little shorter here, which would leave you a larger.
Yeah, it'll leave you a larger residual, like a parcel 4 would have a few more acres in it, and then I don't know if you would be able to punch in a road somewhere if that's what you wished and made like a cul-de-sac or joined in with a neighbor and, you know, did a subdivision together. That would be something that you could also look at.
Theoretically, if you were making only 2 lots as 4 acres, your residual theoretically is now 19 acres.
Exactly, well, yeah, exactly.
Unless they turn out to be a little larger than 4 acres, depending on how you design, because you'll need some for a road in there if you're. So you're planning on bringing a road in from Kirkness?
At some point.
Kirkness, or else, you know, Parkside on the north goes all the way around as well. That's Parkside there as well.
Yeah.
Now.
So do you own, I need this pointer, can you pass me the pointer? So do you own this part in here too, Ray?
Yeah,
Okay, so if you did bring this line straight down,
mhm,
then you'd still have all this plus all this to work with.
correct. There was a future, did you have the futuristic one, like just the proposed one? I don't
Oh,
think-
yeah, there was just,
There
back
was
just
one,
a couple.
there was one submitted.
Well, no,
There you go.
I just saw it there. Right after this, I think, right there. Well, that's to the north of your property.
These are just,
There it is.
There.
Yeah, so that one kind of just shows you that there's 3 on the other side there as well,
Right,
and then 1 on the north.
yeah.
But the ones on the other side, what was the width on the ones on the other side? Those were were those 198?
I can't read them.
232 something,
Okay, so those ones were wide enough.
yes.
Yeah, because you can see that they are a little bit wider than the ones to the east.
Then you're not building a road, right?
Right.
That's right, the way that,
That's
the
what
way
you
you
were trying
designed it
to-
there was you had access to all the others, you just needed driveways basically
Yeah.
installed, yeah.
So,
So it's a decision you can make that, 3 lots with septic tanks and the rest with fields.
holding
2 lots of
tanks.
septic
Holding
tanks and
tanks,
3
sorry.
with holding.
Yeah, 3 with holding
Holding tanks.
tanks and the rest would be with fields. But if you took that line a little bit further to the east, the ones fronting on,
Parkside,
Parks, no, not Parkside.
Kirkness,
Thank you, Kirkness would be a little bit deeper.
yes.
I don't know how big they are, I can't tell from this conception.
Those are all 4 acres. The last one on the north would be the one that would be the shortfall. That would be 3 point something.
Okay.
So those are 255, 295, and 424.
Yeah,
So you're only putting 3 on the other side,
yeah,
and the 4th one up there.
correct. The 4th one on the top was less than 4 acres. Because that's what you had left, basically. But
So why couldn't, if they had to be 198 feet, you could make these, if you made those, if you're looking at the same number of lots, you could make these as 2 lots here,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then these as 198, because you've got more than enough space here. Because you'd be gaining
Well,
from
I was
that.
told the distance on the front along Kirkness isn't correct. It had to be a perpendicular
Perpendicular?
distance.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah,
And the perpendicular distance is here, 220, 198, and 242, is it?
All right. If the council would consider, maybe we should just leave this one open. And I could come back in a month's time then on the 22nd with a firmer position, whether we leave it like that or go with a new concept.
right.
Now, the application that's in with planning district, if we change it to 2, that would need to be resubmitted then completely.
Is that which application, the subdivision application?
The subdivision application is now sitting
This.
with the Red River Planning District.
Right,
This one here.
yeah.
If it gets changed to 2, do I have to redo it, resubmit it?
I don't think you have to resubmit it, but I believe that planning would have to recirculate it, so you might not get it back for the end of March. It may not be until April. And correct me if I'm wrong, Santan, is that not correct? If the applicant changes the number of lots in the subdivision, it would have to be recirculated to the government agencies?
Yes, Madam Mayor, yes.
And I think there's a price amendment.
Is there a cost to amend the application?
There is, I'm not too sure, but I can look it up on the website.
No, that's okay. I see Jennifer joined us, so maybe she can tell us if the applicant would like to redesign the subdivision and it has to be recirculated, the cost would be?
It's $930.
$930.
Yeah.
All right.
And if that is reconfigured, it would have to be recirculated if those 3 lots become 2?
Yes, it would.
Thank you.
Okay, well, if the council would consider it, then I'd ask you then to table it to the next meeting.
Like I say, it may not be the next meeting, it may not be until April, but I don't think, do any members of council have objection to tabling this or holding it over and letting Mr. Whitnick resubmit his application and reconfigure those lots? Go ahead, Councillor Belanger.
I have no issue with it. I like this conceptual plan. I just like it's laid out much better than what I originally saw.
Okay, thank you.
With 2 lots with one lot taken off that
Right.
one side there.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And I'm sure that the applicant will work with the surveyors to see what they can do, even if it's not all done now, then still redesign that residual part of it too, if you want.
Well, the one option would be just to leave it submitted as it is and we go with the holding tank. But I want to talk to some people and find out what that means.
Yeah, and that's entirely up to you, so we can bring it back. Go ahead.
Just for a process question, Jennifer, so if we adjourn it, then do we have to close this for a new application for the 930 so it gets recirculated and re-advertised? So that's the tricky part here. Do we adjourn and leave it open? If we adjourn and leave it open, then it's more or less staying with this plan. If we close it to allow you to change the plan and do it as an amendment, then it's an extra $930. I just want to make sure the process is clear.
Jen, what is your thought?
Yeah, you could close the public hearing, and if the applicant wanted to proceed with the plan as presented, you could then make your decision. If they wanted to proceed with an alternate plan, then there's no requirement to reopen the hearing. We would just recirculate it and have another hearing for it, if that makes sense and if that works.
You can close it and reopen it.
But
if
what
we
is
don't change it.
what is the cost to the applicant in doing it the second way? The 930?
The 930, if there's a revision, if the applicant is revising his proposal, then there is a fee associated with it. If it's staying as is and just coming back as is, there's no additional fee.
Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
So further to that then, so if we close it today, and the applicant wants to go and check out the holding tank situation, and he gets back to us before the next planning meeting and says, no, I want to leave it the way it is, we can make a decision on this application then.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay?
Okay, so I'll attempt to explain it for you, sir. So what will happen is that we're going to close the application today. So that's what's been submitted, is three lots. So if you choose to go with the 3 lots, tell us as soon as possible, before the next month. And if you choose to do that, what that means is at the end of, on March 22nd, council can make a decision on these 3 lots, because that's what you chose them to do. If you choose to do an amendment, then you'll be making that application for an amendment for $930. It'll recirculate. Again, try to make your decision as soon as possible so that it can give it enough time for circulation and it can come in April, but it probably won't make March. And if it makes it to April, then you're doing a new application and you're adjusting it as you see fit.
Just as another general question, would you know when, in the future, is there a time plan that a septic line would be installed in that general region? Would there be a time horizon when you have an idea when a septic line would be put in there? Like if you go into the holding tank and you said, like, look, you know, when there's a 10-year time, there's a 10-year plan here that, you know, potentially there'd be a septic line put in.
Let me see if I can bring up the maps.
Too far.
Yeah, it's
Nothing in
quite far.
between.
Yeah, there's nothing in between.
Like you want to put as many people on as you can. If it was homes all the way down,
I know, but I'm just trying to come up with a sales pitch here.
we could just say no. But that's the reason.
If I brought up the map, just to show you. Excuse me, council, I'll share that with you just so that everybody sees what I'm putting up. And what's the address on this one?
There is a sewage line being installed along the railroad track.
We're doing that, that's us.
Yeah. And Teleo Construction, I think, is working on that, right?
Yeah.
Where is that sewage being, is that being directed north?
To CIL Road. yes.
CIL Road to our lagoon.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what I wanted to show you, is basically a sewer line is coming from Lockport
Yes, yeah,
all the way to CIL Road,
okay, yeah, yeah, all along the railroad track,
All along
Sorry.
the track, yeah.
right along the railroad track.
yeah.
And so most of that is just opening up the lands to the south. And then because it's twin force mains, to run laterals out, that would be fairly extensive. So I would hazard a guess, and this is just a guess, 30+ years.
That's not helping my sales pitch. The holding tank for 30 years might as well be for a lifetime. All right, okay, well, that's good though. I will do some research and I'll come back to you as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just let planning know, let Santan know if you decided to just leave it as the 3 or you're gonna resubmit. So, and like Deepak said, if you're gonna leave it at the 3, let us know as soon as possible, or let Santan know, and then we can bring it back for March.
Yep.
If it has to be recirculated, let them know as soon as possible so they can recirculate.
Very good, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and sorry you had kind of a long wait this evening.
It's interesting, I learned something. Thanks.
Okay, I believe that is all for our planning this evening. I see that Fiolas are still on Zoom. The other application that you had,
We haven't
oh,
closed
we
it.
haven't closed, oh, okay, sorry, getting ahead of myself.
Resolve the public hearing for S 21-2938 be closed in regular session of council be reconvened.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Strang, seconds. Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried.
So we won't be able to having a resolution on this, it'll be out.
Yeah. Okay, so do you want to address Mrs. Fiola there? Because the other one we didn't even entertain or open the hearing.
Mrs. Fiola or Jonah, you are here for which applications?
I think both of Jonna was here for the variation order for the Fiolas, and because we did not deal with the conditional use, we could not deal with the variation, so they will both be coming back. Did you have anything that you wanted to add, Mrs. Fiola, or Jonna, did you have anything that you wanted to make council aware of?
You're muted.
Jonna, did you want to address council this evening?
Sorry, I just figured out how to unmute myself.
Oh.
No, we were just on just to find out what was being planned for next door to us, so we'll definitely hop on next time. I'm sorry, I had to leave the meeting earlier, so I was assuming everything was just tabled at this point until you can get more information.
That is correct. And I believe both, I believe both applications will be coming back at the end of March.
Okay.
Okay, thank
so
you.
Will we get like another notice of something, or just know to submit to request to join the March meeting?
We'd recommend submit to request to join the March meeting, March 22nd meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Fiola, can you hear us?
Yes?
So did you hear that part of the conversation? So did you have any further questions? We will be bringing this application back on March the 22nd.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So
just
can we just request the Zoom access or whatever?
send us a new request to be included as a delegation for the March 22nd meeting. That's when it'll be addressed.
Okay. Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Have a good week.
Bye.
Okay, so I believe that we now can move in camera. We don't have any planning resolutions to do after the fact.
None after the fact.
Okay, so we
Just
do
an
have.
apology to Santan for throwing them a couple of curveballs today.
Okay, thank you for joining us, Santan and Jen, and have a good rest of your week, and we'll be in touch. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Bye.
Yes, thank you, Santan, you too. And I believe we still had a couple of in-camera items that we wanted to discuss this
Yes,
evening.
Madam Mayor. So we need to go back in camera again,
Yeah. Good night, Christina.
You want me
Thank
to
you
close
for.
the door?
Please, yeah, thank you. Have a good rest of your evening and good week. Yes, gonna
Make sure the
try.
front door's locked.
Yeah, I'll make her.
Thank you.
Resolved, council recess the regular meeting and go into in-camera to discuss legal and personnel issues, and further be it resolved that all matters discussed are to remain confidential as per section 83(1)(d) of the Municipal Act.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strang, second. Councillor Bazarowicz, any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, and that is carried.
Recording stopped.
Okay, we're just waiting for the AllNet to stop the recording.
And I don't believe we have too many items